Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, MotoAmerica fans. This is Paul Carruthers, and this is MotoAmerica's weekly podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm joined, as always, by Sean Bice. He's out in Ohio. I'm in California. Our guest is in California, which seems rare these days because it seems like we've been talking to a lot of people that live back in Sean's neighborhood or even east of Sean. So it's nice to have a Californian on here. So Sean can't pick on us too bad because there's 2 against 1. So how are you, Sean?
Well, good evening. I'm coming to you from the darkness of central Ohio. This is my FM DJ voice. It's after hours with Paul and Sean.
Yeah, it seems kind of weird. We always do these things early in the morning, earlier for me than you, obviously. Yeah. And then this one, thanks to our guest forcing us to do something a bit different, we're actually coming to you, or actually recording this in the early evening for me and not so early for you, but it does feel a little different because I'm not drinking coffee, although I should be. But then if I did, I wouldn't sleep. And, I go to bed at 9.
Like I told you, Paul, I already got my jammies on. I got my cocoa.
Yeah. Do you have footsies or no?
Oh, no, I can't have those, foot odor. You got to. Yeah, those make my feet too hot. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our guest here.
Yes. Literally.
Well, kind of, yeah. Okay, our guest today is Michael Gilbert. And Michael's a good friend of the show's. Obviously, we see Michael all the time at the races, and he was missed last year. He showed up despite the fact that he broke his femur. He finished 15th in the Stock 1000 Championship, but it's not even worth talking about because he only raced 5 times. And those 5 times he did get a podium at Road Atlanta, I think in the very first race of the season for Stock 1000. So he kind of would remember what the podium's like, I guess. But anyway, he broke his femur at the Ridge, and it shut down his season. I mean, as a broken femur would, but now he's back. He's had a bit of, I think he's raced, and I know he's taught, or he's at least done track days at Chuck Wallace. So we'll find out a little bit about that as we talk to him. And, he's just going through the process of getting ready for 2023. He made an announcement yesterday that he's going to move to the Supersport class on a Team Hammer-built Suzuki GSX-R750. So that's kind of cool. He kind of came from Supersport, and then now he's going back, and it just adds another guy to a class that I think is going to be really, really competitive in 2023. Again, it's with his own team, Michael Gilbert Racing. And I just found out, actually, or I knew, but I forgot because I'm old, but he actually underwent ankle surgery. So he had a broken femur on his left leg, I think. He's going to tell us this, and then ankle surgery on his right leg. And that he actually broke the ankle before he broke the leg, but didn't get it fixed because he was going about his racing. And then after he broke his femur, is obviously probably more concerned with the femur. Whew, I'm kind of worn out from talking about you, Michael. First of all, just give us an update on, you're obviously getting ready for the new year. You've got your program sorted out. Now it's just a matter of getting yourself healthy. How healthy or unhealthy are you at this point?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. It's been a while, obviously, like you said, it's, I've been in the paddock, but not on the motorcycle. And it just kind of feels good to be getting back in the swing of things and, starting to gear up for another season and just putting all the pieces in place. In terms of health, I mean, honestly, I feel healthier every day. It's, what you and I were talking about prior to the show. It's like, it's funny. I broke my femur, the biggest bone in your body, and I don't even think about my femur. My femur, that's long in the past. It's healthy, it's healed, not even a concern. It feels strong, ready to go on that side of my body. On the other side of my body was my right ankle, which, like you said, a lot of people didn't know. I actually broke it out at Road America 2 weeks before I broke my femur. And then it never really healed because it was coping with taking all the pressure because they're on opposite legs and whatnot. But we had surgery. We're coming back. We're feeling good. Everything's going well. I'm actually just saw my physio, and he was really happy with how things are going. And yeah, like I said, day by day, we're just going to keep plugging away and you know, continue to log some seat time on these motorcycles and get ready for the season.
Okay, I have a question. I always forget to ask people this that have broken their femur. Luckily, it's not, I don't know too many people, but I have had my share of people that have broken their femur. What does that feel like? And do you pass out from that kind of pain? I mean, I broke my foot and I thought that was the end of the world. I can't imagine breaking the biggest bone in my body and how that feels like at the time. You obviously, do you know, like, oh shit, I broke my femur?
I expect it to feel like the end of the world when you break your foot, Paul. I could see that out of you. So
Probably like a little baby.
Yeah. No, when I broke my femur, honestly, I don't remember hardly anything about it. You know, I fell down and Ezra Bobia hit me, and he tagged my head. You know, I still have the helmet. You know, it has a big rubber mark on it from his tire and everything else. Thankfully, like, my Arai helmet just kept me so safe. I'm so lucky to be protected by the best, but I don't think I had a concussion from that. I really don't, but I don't remember hardly any of the process. I really believe that the pain blocked me out. I've broken a lot of things. I have never experienced pain like that.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I remember is heading in the ambulance over to the hospital, and I was texting my fiance, Kaitlyn, and we still laugh about it because, you know, I'm telling her, oh, I'm fine, sending kissy faces, don't worry about it. And then somehow someone sent her an x-ray of my femur and it snapped in half, just clean cut. But I don't really remember much of it. Honestly, the hardest part about the femur was in the waiting room waiting for surgery, because I fell down about 1:00 and we had surgery at 7:00 that night. I had a muscle spasm in my quad waiting. And I thought someone was going to die in that room that night, because I was not feeling good. But then once they put the rod in you, that's the most amazing thing. Like, they put a rod in my femur at 7:00 at night. I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning at 10 in the morning. Physical therapy comes in and they say, all right, let's get up. Time to walk. You know, it was amazing.
I think at this point, it's probably a good idea to tell people that your fiance is also a registered nurse.
She's a registered nurse, yes.
So when she's looking at an x-ray, it's not, you know, she's not looking at the back of a cereal box. She actually knows.
No.
She actually knows what it means. And honestly, I mean, I can't think, other than you marrying a surgeon, I think probably a registered nurse is right up your alley.
Well, a surgeon would have more money.
That'd be nice.
Well, you got that true.
I'm gonna pick my fight with this one when I get home. Yeah, no, Kaitlyn's amazing. Quite honestly, like, it's having her in my corner this whole last summer has been amazing. I can absolutely not say enough about her. So having her and her expertise and you know, when the moments that were really tough, she's been amazing. But I know I've also made it very hard on her, and I hope that 2023 is much easier on the both of us.
Yeah, you need to take care of her.
Yeah.
Right.
Payback.
You know, Michael, I want to talk to you about your ankle, but let's stay on the femur just for a minute and some of this physiological stuff, because of course, we all, you know, we know you are now a member of an exclusive club that for a while, I think the oldest, Larry Pegram's the one I remember, but certainly I'll never forget when Garrett Gerloff broke his femur and Sam Lockoff did a couple of years ago. You know, you've done it. I mean, it's amazing for a bone that they say is stronger than the equivalent amount of concrete. They say concrete is not as strong as your femur is, and you still, I mean, it seems, I'm not saying it's common, but it happens more than I would have expected. And looking at that crash, you mentioned about your head. I still look at that thing and man, I cannot see when that happened, because, you know, you expect to see one of those things like in a football game where you don't even want to look at it when that part of your leg is bent in a position that it shouldn't be or something. And what did he run over? Did your leg get run over, or how did you break it? You know?
I've watched the crash more than a few times trying to understand it. And to this day, I still don't know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
To me, it almost looks like, because I was sliding backwards on the racetrack, and it looks like he caught my right side rib cage and essentially bent me over the top of my leg.
Yeah.
That's what it
Oh,
looks
wow.
like to me.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't remember any of it really. I
Yeah.
remember the front. I remember just vaguely losing the front tire, and then that was it. I don't remember anything until headed to the hospital.
You know, I remember talking to Garrett Gerloff after when he had his at Daytona, the very first time he was out on track in Supersport, well, for the 200 that year. And the way he did it, and you think sometimes it's from an impact on that area, that part, your thigh essentially, but he slammed his foot so hard down on the asphalt that's what caused his femur to break. So, you know, it's crazy how it happens. Have you ever talked to Ezra about it?
Oh yeah, I showed him my hospital bill. No, I that's partly a joke. No, the funny part of that story, is, you know, when the hospital sees it or the insurance sees it, of course we race motorcycles, so they determine it to be a motor vehicle accident, right? Even though we're on closed course and private property and whatnot. So they were asking for the insurance information of the third party that was involved. So I showed it to Ezra. I said, "Hey man, do you think you could fill this out? Because I really got to get this taken care of." And it said like $100 and something thousand right at the top of the piece of paper. And he's like, "Oh my God," his jaw dropped. It was awesome. So yeah, we had some fun with it, and you know, I'll probably never let him live that one down, but it is what it is.
When you were on the bike after you broke your ankle, was it difficult for you to ride that bike with that ankle issue? And I think that this next part of that is, we talked about the pain issue. So you already had the ankle problem. Did you immediately weren't paying attention to the pain in your ankle at that point because it was trumped by your thigh or your femur?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so I broke my ankle at MotoAmerica. We essentially, to the day I die, I will say it was not my fault, which I'll always claim my crashes. But we essentially had something on the brakes getting ready for the carousel, and I ended up in the wall on the right, which was just a very strange place to crash. But you know, I get home, I go get my x-rays, I meet with my surgeon. He goes, "You know what? I'm going to let you go race at the Ridge. Just don't crash." So, you know, we go to the Ridge and it works out how it works out. But until that point, like, I will tell you, I've never been so sore with my upper body that weekend at the Ridge, because I was having to compensate so much with using my upper body because I couldn't use my legs the way I needed to. And, you know, there's a lot of side to side transitions where you're really hustling the motorcycle underneath you. And I was just fatigued. Like, I think if I remember correctly, again, I don't remember much of that weekend, but I remember I had some pace, but I could only do it for maybe 2 or 3 laps just because I was so exhausted from trying to compensate.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then, you know, to your second question,
yeah,
I break my femur and they're on opposite legs. So, you know, I literally went from being on crutches and keeping my right ankle in the air other than being on the motorcycle, and then breaking my left femur and sending 100% pressure back to my right ankle. And so I think that was part of the reason that the thing never got fixed in the first place. You know, it never had the chance.
What's your situation with the ankle? Do you have almost full mobility now? Is there a little bit of scar tissue? What's going on with it at this point?
So I had surgery to the ankle 2 days before Christmas. They found 2 big tears to the ligament. And then essentially the ligament was really loose. So, you know, the surgeon told me that when he knocked me out, that he could turn my ankle around over and over and over again. So what they did is they went in, they fixed the 2 tears to the ligament, they sewed those up, and then they used these brace systems within my ankle to create tension on that ligament again. And so it's my understanding, and it feels that it's very rock solid, like it's in place and it's strong. Now that being said, the prognosis with the surgery was like, it's going to be 6 months that you're going to have, your ankle is going to feel normal again. And that doesn't necessarily mean pain. It just means that it's going to be really tight because, again, they brace that ligament and everything's just kind of bound up in there. So, like I told you guys, I'm literally on my way home from seeing my physiotherapist, and he's been trying to clean up some of the scar tissue and make sure that the other muscles and tendons and ligaments that are compensating because of the situation I have going on in there, they're all loose and firing in the correct order. So quite honestly, I feel pretty good right now. Like, having left his office, I feel like I'm walking pretty normally. I'm starting to get on my bicycle and get on the rowing machine and start to get some blood flow and activity going. Um, I've ridden motorcycles since the surgery. I actually raced out at Chuckwalla. So I would say I'm in a good spot, but I'm really doing my best not to rush it. Having been the last 7-8 months of where I started when I first broke the ankle and then the femur, and now where I'm at, I gotta be sure I don't go back.
When you go like to Chuckwalla and you haven't raced in a long time because of the injuries, what's the hardest part? Is it physical, or is it just getting your brain back up to speed?
More so getting my brain back up to speed. I mean, I went and raced, and I borrowed a GSX-R750 from Liam Grant. Actually, Jason, his father, was kind enough to let me ride it, knowing that I was going into Supersport, and just kind of let me readapt. And it's just getting my mind up to speed. Like, I felt like I was 3 or 4 seconds off my normal pace, and I'm going into corners like panicking. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to run off the racetrack. And then I get there, I'm like, you idiot, just roll on the throttle. Like, you need throttle to get to the corner. So it just took some time. And by the end of the weekend when I was racing, we got down to somewhat respectable time, for all things considered, and not my motorcycle and whatnot. So, just with seat time and riding and then going to sleep and thinking on it and then waking up the next day, I feel like that's the most critical thing right now.
And my other question regarding this coming season is what led to the decision of going back to Supersport?
Well, as you know, we were a premier superbike team last year. And the idea was to race stock 1,000 and superbike in 2022, and then transition into superbike full time in 2023. Obviously, I had Andrew Lee on the motorcycle. He did a fantastic job. I couldn't say enough about that. But it definitely hindered the team's development and my development, I guess, to go into superbike. And at the end of the day, budget. We looked at the budget to run a superbike team and the resources it required, and with what we had, and it just wasn't plausible at this moment. And so our thought process changed to, okay, if we can't be in superbike, how can we go to another premier class and be at the front and be able to win races and fight for a championship? And Supersport was the answer. I made a couple phone calls, talked about different motorcycle options. We considered just about everything. And, we landed on the GSX-R750. Chris Ulrich was kind enough to drive one out from Alabama to Chuckwalla for me to test. And basically I tested on it. And then 2 days later, I had ankle surgery, and here we are.
My second question about the team, goes to the pride of Lake Forest, California, Owen Williams. And what's led to him jumping from Junior Cup to Supersport and not Twins Cup, and not even staying in Junior Cup? Because I love the kid to death, but he didn't exactly set the world on fire in Junior Cup. And then here we are making a gigantic step. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, Owen's growing at a quick rate. So,
Yeah.
I think he's quite honestly growing out of the Junior Cup bikes.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the MotoAmerica season, Jason Pridmore, and we put Owen on just a Kawasaki ZX6 and sent him out at Chuckwalla, and he started turning really fast times, like right away. And this motorcycle isn't even race spec. And he started doing really, really well. And so we were all kind of sitting there like, what do we do with Owen? And it kind of popped up as like, well, when him and his dad had kind of heard I was doing Supersport, it's like, well, why don't we integrate ourselves with your program? And in turn from all of that, be able to benefit off the resources and off your knowledge and grow as a rider and and grow as a rider and as an individual through all of it. And just incorporate yourself. So I'm really excited for Owen. I know it's a huge step. I think it's going to be very challenging, maybe more challenging than he thinks. But I feel like we're doing a good job of surrounding himself with crew, with a crew chief. He's never really had either of them. It's been him and his dad. Obviously I would lend my experience to him when I could, but racing Superbike and Stock 1000, we get so busy that I can barely keep my own head above water. So now that he's going to be on track with me and we can look at data and we can talk about riding and talk about very specific things, I think that really is going to help him a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a great year.
Yeah, I know. When you explain it that way, it could be one of those surprise things that's kind of where he's meant to be.
As long as he doesn't go faster than I do.
Well, yeah, then we're going to have a real problem. You think you're
And I'm going to retire. Yeah.
It's funny, Michael, it doesn't seem like it's been that long that Owen's been racing with us, because it hasn't been. But I remember when he first came into the paddock, and he was quite small then. And the joke was his hair was so long that nobody really knew what his gender was at first. But he has obviously changed so much. I mean, he's gotten a lot bigger, and he's a well-spoken kid for sure. The first thing I said, of course, sometimes I tend to get too hung up in the rules, and you're probably going to laugh about this, but when I read the press release, I went to Paul and I was like, he's only 15. It says that in there. He can't race. And then I knew his birthday was I think in May or something. And I was like, well, he obviously can't race the first couple of rounds unless you have special dispensation. He's not going to race until after he turns 16. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, that's correct. He's going to do Road America on. What's funny is John Ulrich, as soon as that press release went out, John Ulrich also called me and asked the exact same question. So we made some people curious with that one.
It was pretty good. Well, it got noticed, that's for sure. But to your point, I mean, Kayla Yakov has been her bike that she trains on is an R6, and Blake Davis obviously is going to be, he's still going to be Twins Cup, but he's going to race some super sport. So, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good that these kids get on there. We have a Discord server, and we have some energetic fans, let me put it. And a while back, everybody was going insane when they were showing, I think it was your post of you on an M4 bike, and they're all like, oh, he's the other M4 rider. And, we knew different than that, but couldn't say anything. So we're just watching them go crazy about that. But that's not too far removed from the truth. I mean, you are technically on a Team Hammer-built bike. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Essentially, Team Hammer and Chris Ulrich and I, we did a deal to have Team Hammer spec GSX-R750s. I couldn't be more excited about it. He was actually Team Hammer built my stock thousands last year. And as difficult as my year was, I felt like we had a really great motorcycle all year long, and our year started really, really strong. And I felt like I was riding better than I ever have, and the motorcycle was working really well. And so, to make the transition to the GSX-R750 from the GSX-R1000, it's like I almost didn't even need to ride the motorcycle to know.
Right.
Paul, you were a journalist. Like you get on a Suzuki and it's a Gixxer. Like you could be blindfolded and you sit on it and you're like, yep, nope, this is a Gixxer. 600, 750 doesn't even matter. It's a Gixxer. And so it was one of those things, like when the whole thing came up, and knowing how good the Suzuki GSX-R1000 was last year and how much I liked it, I really didn't even have to question it without even riding the 750.
The 750 was actually always my favorite.
Oh, it's an amazing motorcycle. I mean, as a stock motorcycle, just a street bike, that's an amazing motorcycle.
Right. It's just the right amount of everything.
Yeah, Michael, do you notice the difference with the electronic throttle on it?
I tested the motorcycle for a day out at Chuckwalla, as I said. I can't even tell you the last time I rode a stock GSX-R1000. It's been a long time. I think I rode a GSX-S1000 in my time at Cycle World, but that's even got to be 3 or 4 years ago. And at race pace on a racetrack, things feel so different. But it seems like Chris and Team Hammer have done a good job of ironing out all the little nuances to it, and it feels, it's predictable and it's smooth, and there's nothing that really stands out about it. Not in a bad way at all. I think they've done a great job.
This is a thing, Paul and I, it's been an interesting progression on our podcast. So we had Chloe Laren on and found out, and we'd already had Corey Ventura on and know that he's going to be with Disrupt Racing on a GSX-R750 with, I think, a guy that you've worked with. And then you've got, Teague Hobbs joins Tyler Scott, and they're both on 750s. Now you're on a 750. There's going to be quite a, how do I put it, a squadron of GSX-R 750s out there, and Team Hammer bikes for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great. I think that, again, the teething problems that come with the 750 that those guys experienced last year, just with the lack of testing and data, you're going to be able to kind of conquer that with having so many motorcycles on track. Having so many motorcycles on track that we can all kind of rely on each other to help solve any problems if there are. So I think it's great.
All right, so you're going to be racing a bunch of kids, but there's also some veterans in that class, so it's not just all kids. Is it going to take you a while to get up to speed, or do you think it'll be right away? And do you have more Chuck Waller races planned?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to readapt to Supersport. When I was out riding the GSX-R 600, it was definitely different than the 1000, and I do miss the 1000 already in a lot of ways. I really enjoyed riding the 1000 the last few years, and I felt like it suited me really well. We'll just try and use experience, and I'm curious to see what the 750 is like as I spend more time on it. But I think it's all good. We have 2 more weekends at Chuckwalla to race the GSX-R 750, and then we'll have some various tests. I think we probably have 3 or 4 days of testing outside of Chuckwalla that will be great before we get to Road Atlanta.
You're not doing Daytona then, right?
No, I'm not doing Daytona. Quite honestly, I think just with the challenges that I have, that would come up way too quickly. Just getting myself back up to speed and getting healthy and everything else. I would love to go, but it's just not in the cards right now.
And it's also a pretty good hit on the budget, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for a West Coast guy. Yeah. Hey, Michael, so one of the things your press release was very thorough in a lot of ways, and I'm glad that you mentioned a person that I'm very fond of in Pancho Rangel. I mean, I got to know him, I think Bryce Prince, Jason Aguilar at some point along the way there, and I've always really admired him. So whenever I see him in the paddock, I either wave or come over and say hello to him. I can't remember, he worked with a rider last year, and I thought that rider is on a GSX-R 750 too. Do you remember who it was?
It was Alex Thermiotis.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. So he's had some time with the 750, not that he needs it because he's a brilliant technician, but it's cool that you've got him on your team. You must be psyched about that.
I can't even tell you how excited I am about working with Pancho. This is something we've been trying to do for a couple of years. The story is kind of funny. I made a couple phone calls when we decided to go Supersport, and early in the morning I was talking to someone about Supersport, and we were talking about motorcycle options, and he essentially said, well, I really think you should go at least try and swing a leg over a GSX-R 750. I think it's going to be a good fit. And I'm like, okay. And then Pancho texted me out of the blue and just checking in. Pancho and I have a great relationship, and he was just checking in with me. And he was asking, well, what are you doing this year? What's going on? I told him, I think I'm going to go race Supersport. And he goes, well, what motorcycle? And I said, well, it's this option or the GSX-R 750. And he goes, I really think you should swing a leg over a GSX-R 750 before you make a decision. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And then we started talking. I'm like, Pancho, is this you telling me that you want to work together? And so it kind of just got the ball rolling, and we had some meetings. And we're a team this year. So I really can't be more excited about it. I'm really excited to learn from Pancho, just have a great time. We have a great friendship. And then quite honestly too, he was with Jason Aguilar for so long, and Jason was one of my best buddies. And so in a way, it's kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, but it's kind of like a full circle thing. So I'm really excited to spend some time with Ponch and hopefully win a lot of races and just have a great time.
You know, Michael, it was interesting what the fans lost in not having you on the track, watching you race last year. We gained a little bit in the media center when you would come in and sit with us sometimes. But I will tell you and tell the people, if you sit and watch a race with Michael Gilbert, you're going to learn that he is a cranky bastard. I don't know if he doesn't like watching racing on TV, but it's obviously because he wants to be out there doing it himself. But Michael, it's as painful as your ankle and femur are. Watching a race that you can't be in has got to be pretty painful, huh?
Well, I think that's just because I was a full-on team owner at that point, and I had Andrew
That's
Lee on the bike.
That's true.
So, Andrew, I will say Andrew did an amazing job. Like, he really did a great job. But as you know, you always want your motorcycle to be one step up. So he knows it. I was yelling at the TV and bitching at him, and it was all fun and games too. So we had a great time. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back out there and racing myself. And fingers crossed we have a great year, and quite honestly, just a healthy year. If I'm healthy, I'm happy, because this year 2022 was really tough on me.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to throw Andrew Lee under the bus, because I'm telling you, and I'm not naming names either, but you were yelling at everybody.
That's Michael. That's what Michael does.
Come on, Bice. I was trying to sugarcoat that pretty nicely. Now you are throwing me under the bus.
No, it's fun to watch a race with you, though, because you watch it in a little bit of a different way than I did. So, all right, well, listen, I'm going to throw another crazy question at you, but I got to ask you about it, because we've been hearing a lot about you in this off season. You've had a pretty dynamic paradigm shift in your life, I think. I think we can still call you a moto journalist, but maybe you can fill us in. So last year with Cycle World and Octane Lending, you had the big transporter. This year, you're Supersport, which is going to be great. It's very competitive with you and Owen. But there's a lot of different things in your life now, right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I left Cycle World at the end of 2022. And what I have going on is I'm actually going to run my family's sheet metal business. So my dad and his business partner have owned this shop for 38 years, believe it or not. And so we're essentially spending time under his business partner right now, learning as much as we can from him. He plans on retiring here very soon. And then it'll be my brother, myself, and then my dad for, I'm going to say, a year and a half, 2 years. I don't think my dad will ever stop working, but it's going to be us, and we're just learning the ropes of everything that goes into it. And already I can tell you there's days that you're like, what the hell did I get myself into? Because it's so far over your head. And then there's days where you start figuring it out and you're like, okay, I got this. It's just like anything, right? So I'm just trying to apply myself as much as I can to that, and learn as much as I can and absorb, and and also create it into something of my own. These guys are funny because they're still running things off an Earthlink email, and like their software is from 1998 and their newest servers from 2003 or something. So it's just kind of funny to watch these guys. And so hopefully, my point is hopefully that we can kind of come in with a little bit of a younger generation take on it, and update things and make it more efficient. And then also, like, from my racing side of things and my journalism side of things and the industry that I've been in, come in and market it and advertise it and get things really going, because again, those guys, they're just engineers, and that's all they did. They didn't really handle the other side of business. So I'm super excited. It's an amazing opportunity, not only for myself but my fiance, and hopefully we actually have a little bit of money to live in California. And it also still allows me to go racing, and now I have a place to store my semi truck in the back lot of the shop, and it's all good.
Sean, he's gonna be so rich, he's not even gonna talk to us anymore. He'll be doing like financial podcasts and stuff.
I'll be living on the hill above you, Paul.
Well, that's about to slide off into the ocean.
Perfect.
But Michael,
sounds
did
like
you expect... Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that sounds like my year of 2022, sliding off into the ocean.
Yeah.
Good point. Well said. Did you expect that someday this is something you would do to get involved in your family's business?
Well, it's kind of funny because when I was going to school, that was my plan. My plan was to go run the business with my dad, and then obviously at transition, and it was my plan. And then I fell into the motorcycle journalism thing, and I ran with that for I can't even tell you how long it's been now, 8 years. And it's the opportunity of lifetime. I mean, honestly, in the motorcycle industry, that's the job everyone wants. I mean, you fly around the world, you ride these motorcycles sometimes before people have even heard about them, and see all these cool racetracks and meet all these amazing people. And I can't even tell you how grateful I am for all those experiences. I mean, quite honestly, I started so young at Sport Rider. I think I was 19 years old when I started full time over there, and I didn't grasp what I had, like I do now, and I really wish I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, because those are lifetime memories. You're never going to get some of those things back. But on the flip side of that, the conversation kind of came up over the summer, and I was talking to my father about it and about the business. And I'm like, well, Dad, I know you offered this place to me a million times when I'm 17, 18 years old, but I had no grasp of what you have over here. Like I did, but I didn't, I didn't know what the capacity of what he had going on over there, because it's a fairly large scale business. And, and then the opportunity kind of just presented itself. And when it did, and we had a meeting and he kind of showed us everything, it was a no-brainer. So I'm really happy, and not to be too complacent, but I feel confident that it's going to be a very big thing for my future going forward and Kaitlyn's future going forward. And so I'm going to work my butt off and do my best job at that, and also do my best job at racing, and just live it up while we can.
So Michael, we're getting ready to wrap up here, and I got so much more I wanted to ask you, but I real quick, I think I know this, but I want to make sure we understand. So the team is called Michael Gilbert Racing this year?
At the moment, we're still tying up some things with sponsors and partnerships. So hopefully we have an announcement here pretty soon about what we'll actually be going off of. But yeah, the team is Michael Gilbert Racing. Yeah.
And you'll still be 55.
55, the double nickel.
Yeah,
there was another racer in Supersport. I had to message him and make sure I could get my number.
Did you have to threaten him or not?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It was more of like a bribe than a threat, but yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what $50 will get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I guess we're going to wrap up here, Paul. So
yeah, Michael, thanks for joining us. And you had a pretty shitty year, but sometimes shitty years are followed by really good ones because somebody owes you one. So good luck with next year. Obviously, we'll be in touch, and we can ride some bicycles and stuff when you're feeling up to it. It's my only chance to keep him in sight, Sean. So I want to anytime I can ride with a guy with a broken femur and a messed up ankle, I'm good to go. But anyway,
there you go.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I know Sean's got something here to say in closing, but we'll catch up again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the year, and we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, and by the way, I love the fact that you guys get together once in a while, even though I can't be there. I enjoy the fact that you guys do that. It's so cool.
We'll Zoom you from the coffee shop.
Yeah, do that. That's right. So hey, I just want to mention, so the 81st running of the Daytona 200 is coming up. It's the weekend of March. Well, I should say the week of March 9th through the 11th, but the 200 is going to be on Saturday, March 11th at 1:10 p.m. And the only way you can watch this race is to be there, and also get a MotoAmerica Live Plus subscription. So get that streaming subscription so you can watch every bit of that race, as well as practices and qualifying and the races in the other classes that are going to be there, including Mission King of the Baggers that weekend too. And when you get a subscription right now, there's a great price on it. It's just $89.99 for the year, and it's the entire season plus Daytona. And again, Daytona 200, only way you can watch it is on Live Plus. So we want to make sure that you get involved in that and be part of that whole thing, because that Live Plus package is getting better and better all the time with the announcers and the color commentators we have on there, and all the interviews that they bring in the paddock, and the guys that come in the booth and talk to the announcers that are usually on there. So get in on that now. Go to the MotoAmerica website. There's a section about watch TV or watch and things like that, and you can look at. And we're also going to be running some promos, so you can find out how to get involved in that. But definitely sign up. It's a good deal, and it gives you a lot of great coverage. And you won't be a cranky bastard like Michael Gilbert is when you watch it. You'll be filled with joy. We know that. So anyway, thanks, Michael, again.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Have a good rest of your week.
All right.